Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Iconic Dollcast. My name is Sage, your host. Welcome back to another episode all about dolls. And thank you so much for tuning in last week for my 100th episode celebration. That was really cool for me, and definitely if you haven't listened yet, check that out, especially if you're a new listener. My friend Kendall, a doll for all seasons, on Instagram actually interviewed me, and I had a blast. It was so much fun, and now here we are, episode 101. I'm so grateful. This has been awesome. You guys, today I have Renee Rosen on the show, and Renee recently released a wonderful book about how Barbie came to be. The book is called Let's Call Her Barbie, and this interview was awesome. I really enjoyed the book. I did listen to the audiobook for a few days while I was doing some summer cleaning, and I really loved it. And speaking of summer cleaning, you guys, me being the ADHD person that I am, I must mention I am currently sitting in chaos in my doll room. I have been so busy with my gymnastics job. We are actually coming up to our final, I think the day this is released, the final competition of the season. And I've been so busy, and for some reason just had an ADHD moment the other day and decided, I think my doll room could use a little reorganization. Reorganization, I guess, in my brain means taking everything down and moving it to the floor so I can reorganize. And then I lost interest because I had to focus back on my full-time job, and I still have not gotten to it. I am living in chaos, and that's fine. Anyway, back to the main topic, this book, Let's Call Her Barbie. I don't want to give too much away. We talk a lot about it. But of course, I think any fan of dolls would enjoy this, so they should go pick up or download a copy. I promise you will love it. Like I said, it's literally about Barbie. And of course, her creator, Ruth Handler, plus a few others. And yeah, it's just really, really fantastic. So we are going to jump into it. Episode 101, no big deal. As always, please follow me on Instagram at iconicdollcast or Britney Spears Custom Dolls. Follow me on TikTok at Britney Spears Dolls. And here is my interview with Renee Rosen, the author of Let's Call Her Barbie. All right, guys, today I have Renee Rosen on the show, and Renee is the author of the brand new book, Let's Call Her Barbie, which is available now. And we're going to talk all about Renee's journey with Barbie and what it was like writing this fantastic book. Renee, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Sage.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to talk to you today. Obviously, you've had your book come out and everybody is loving it. But before we jump into Barbie, give me a little background on yourself, non-Barbie related. How did you find yourself where you're at now?
So I write historical fiction. Let's Call Her Barbie is my 9th book. I'm working on my 10th now. And it's just something I've always wanted to do from the time I was a little girl. And in many ways, I think Barbie is responsible for me becoming a writer. But it's just something I have always wanted to do. And it's just a privilege to be able to write every day and share my stories with people.
Wow, 10 books. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So let's get into your Barbie journey. So did you grow up playing with dolls?
Oh, yeah. I was a serious Barbie player. I do remember having like a Mrs. Beasley doll and the Dawn dolls and little Kittles and all that, but no. I was all about Barbie. I took my Barbie playing very seriously. And all my girlfriends, it wasn't even discussed. If you went to Steffi's house, you brought your Barbie case with you. Or, you went to Ellie's house, you went to Margie's house. And, I was the one that had the very elaborate stories. Barbie and Ken could not go to Paris because Ken had a gambling problem and they had financial issues. And all that had to be worked out before they could just jet off and go to Paris. And, Skipper she had to have a narrative arc. So she had to be a different doll by the time she got back in the case at the end of the day. And I'm sure I drove my friends nuts because all they wanted to do was put on the beautiful clothes and have Barbie and Ken kiss. And occasionally I did take my brother's G.I. Joes because I needed to, I needed more men to, level the playing field a little bit.
Of course. And one of the things I love so much about Barbie, not so much today, because I do feel like nowadays kids don't quite understand the value in play and creating stories. Just because
Yeah.
kids are not. I would say Barbie's still doing pretty well, but I don't think kids are as fascinated with Barbies as we are. And I think like what I loved about Barbie growing up is so similar to you. I'm not a writer, but I too, whenever I was going to one of my friends' house, I had my Barbies with me, and it was like, okay, which Barbie did you get? And we all had different Barbies. Some of us had the same Barbies, but there was always just like a variety of Barbies, and we just throw them out
Yeah.
on the floor, and we'd be like, okay, what is the scene? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And I just love that, for so many years that was people's story with Barbie. It was like the
Yeah.
fascination of creating their own world.
It's so funny that you say that because we would spread all of our Barbies out, and we had some number system where you picked a number and that was the doll that you got to play with that day.
That's fair.
So, you if you had like the good Barbie, then somebody else could play with her that day. So we did that. We did that with the clothes too. But it's
Of
just
course.
so funny that everybody sort of came up with their own system.
Of course. And we'd also trade our Barbies. I'd be like, well, I'll give you this Barbie if you give me that one. And it was just so much fun. And like I said, I just feel like kids are missing out so much today because they don't understand just like how occupied that could keep us like as a friend group or even just by myself. I could sit down with my
Yeah.
Barbies and just play in my room for hours and
Yeah.
not even realize it. And then all of a sudden it was dinner time. So
Yeah.
she's
They were friends. They were like friends.
absolutely.
If your
They still
real
are.
life friends weren't around, you could still amuse yourself. And I do think that Barbie, the magic of Barbie, was unlocking your imagination.
Of
There
course.
was no limit, and as juxtaposed to other toys that are now on the market, like Lego. I think back in the day, Lego, you could create anything, but now it's sort of a set that you're trying to create the end result.
Right.
Or I'm not a video game player, but I think that you're kind of controlled by the designers of the video game, whereas Barbie, there was no limit. If you wanted to
Right.
take your tub of parquet butter and turn it into a hot tub for her, you could. There was just, you were only limited by your imagination.
Totally. And I mean, I just think it's so great. Anytime I talk to someone who is very into Barbie, like myself, I think, like you said, Barbie probably inspired your career choice. And I think, Barbie, she can be anything, right? And so I think most of the people I've talked to would say the same thing, whether they're in fashion design or they're in
Yeah.
corporate or whatever.
Yeah.
Somehow Barbie played a part in that, which I think is so special. So I want to know, do you remember the first Barbie you ever had?
Yes. She was the bubble cut,
Hmm.
redhead bubble cut that I think came out in 61, if I'm correct. And she belonged to my sister. My sister is 6 years older than me. So I inherited the original Ken, that particular Barbie, and Midge from my sister.
Oh,
So
gotta
that
have a
was sort of
Midge.
my starter. Oh yeah, yeah. So that was sort of my starter dolls.
And why? I mean, obviously, we just talked about how what an impact she's had on creativity and your career. Like, what does Barbie mean to you?
Barbie is just for me, a wonderful escape. Look at what's going on in the world right
Oh
now.
no.
We need escape. We need to sort of protect our mental space. And I just think Barbie's just, she's beautiful. She's glamorous. She can be anything that you want. And, she's changed so much through the years, and there's just something magical about Barbie that other toys do not have. It's Barbie specific.
Yes, and I also love, she has changed so much over the years, but her main point and message has always stayed the same. It's you can
Yes.
be anything, and she is there for you. And I also feel like relating to, obviously the world is going to shit. As adults, it's nice to also still have that in our lives because sometimes, you go to your 40-hour a week job and you turn on the news and everything is crap. And it's just like sometimes I just want to sit in my Barbie room because I know, like, at least in there, like everything is all good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so funny because people are like, I can't be on social media right now. It's too toxic. I am in such a pink Barbie bubble. That's all I'm looking
Same.
at. And that's all that's looking back at me. So I am a happy camper.
Do you still find yourself buying or collecting Barbie today?
You know what? I wouldn't say that I'm a collector because I've seen, like, look at your collection. It's stunning and beautiful, and I've seen. So I wouldn't feel right calling myself a collector, but I have such an appreciation for them, and I've certainly acquired more Barbies. Since I started working on the book, people are giving me their Barbies and all. So, and I'm looking. I've got them, on display, and but not the way a serious collector would do. But I can absolutely see where you can just go down the rabbit hole with it.
Oh
I
yeah.
had a mini me created, and
Oh,
I ended up she had an office, she had her laptop, she had her coffee, she had her iPhone, she had a bookcase, and and I was forever just buying things, different rugs, different, little picture frames. There's something about that 1/6 scale that I cannot resist.
of course. And I bet
Just
you
can't.
had the time of your life doing that too, which is why
Oh,
Barbie's so
so much
great.
fun. So fun. And, for the adult collectors, I am just so charmed by the creativity that everyone brings to their own collections, their own feeds. And I always tell people, like, if you just want to put a smile on your face, go follow these people. Just go check out what they're doing with Barbie, because it's pretty amazing. And I think it's a wonderful creative outlet, regardless of how young or old you are.
Of course, and the best thing about Barbie collectors on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, it's like it's all based around the same thing, but the content is all so different.
Different. Yes.
Props to anyone who is able to have a page dedicated to Barbie and put their own twist on it, because it's always something new and fresh and creative. And it's like,
Yes.
yes, they're taking pictures of the exact same doll, but like interpreting it in
Look at what they're
totally different
doing with
ways.
it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's so well put.
Do you have a favorite Barbie of all time?
I think it's probably, I'm not sure if she's number 2 or number 3, but with the ponytail, the brunette with the ponytail
Of
that a
course.
friend gave me. And I think she's a number 3. She's
It's
either
hard to
number 2
tell.
or number
It's hard to
3.
tell
Yeah.
sometimes because they also have like a lot
Yeah.
of weird like transitional pieces too, which have like parts from a 2 and then a 3,
I,
and it's
I
crazy.
saw a number 1 with nipples.
Oh, you did?
A collector. Yes. I thought she was kidding. And, she pulled down her little bathing suit, and I was like, oh my God, she does. She has nipples. A
That's
pair that Jack Ryan didn't saw off with his pocket knife.
what an incredible piece. Yeah, I bet. I'm sure it was like a prototype or something. What do you think about all of the criticism on Barbie? And obviously you talk about it a lot in your book, but like what's your personal opinion about, Barbie gets a lot of shit, and she
Yeah. Yeah.
um I think often when I'm talking to people about Barbie, it's like it's so easy for people to forget like what her main point is, which we've talked about, which is
Empowerment.
empowerment, but she gets shit on a lot. So what are your thoughts on like the people who just sit there and criticize Barbie?
I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm surprised. I don't know what they are so frightened of with this, little doll. And they when Ruth Handler was creating her, she never intended for young girls or women as they got older to try and turn themselves into Barbie. Barbie's dimensions, particularly her waist, was absolutely driven by her wardrobe.
Right.
It was not some misogynistic fantasy. And Barbie wears a size 3 shoe. Come on. They weren't creating something. She was a toy. She was a figure. So I don't know why people heap so much onto her, precious little shoulders. So I personally never looked at her as uh, aspirational in terms of what I could do as myself, but I never thought that, oh, I'm going to starve myself and try and, look like her and transform myself. So I don't really know where that came from. And I would venture to say that Ruth and the creators of Barbie never anticipated that happening. I also think because Barbie came of age at the same time when the women's movement was starting to galvanize, she was sort of an easy target.
Right.
And Mattel did some missteps. No
Of
question
course.
about it. innocently, but still it drew attention to Barbie and, for example, the slumber party
Mm-hmm.
ensemble, with the scale and, how to lose weight, don't eat with little booklet, and at the same time they issue one for Ken and he gets a sweet roll and a glass of milk for his accessories.
Right.
So, they did kind of open themselves up there. But why Barbie gets such criticism is sort of a mystery to me. But I will say that I think the movie was the best PR move for her ever, ever.
Absolutely. And you used a word that I think actually says it all, and that is frightened. I think that, let's be clear here, the people that are mostly giving Barbie shit are adults. It's not the kids that are like, yeah, she's
Right.
bad. It's the adults that are telling people that they are bad. And I've kind of always been the same way where it's like, I don't know, I just was raised knowing that Barbie was not a real person and she was just for fun. And of course I had fun glamming her up and doing all that stuff, but it also never really impacted me, or I think I can't speak for them, but I'm going to guess my friends, growing up, it wasn't like, well, we want to be Barbie. It was more just like, no,
Yeah.
Barbies
Yeah.
are fun stuff. And
Barbie's a vehicle to play with.
yeah. And I think also like with the word frightened, I think parents, especially like back in the day, I think they lacked a sense of responsibility where it's like, well, you have to explain this to kids then. If this is how you feel, you have to explain why Barbie is the way she is and what I think what she's doing and what not. And I think parents didn't want to do that. So instead of taking the responsible route and really like, first of all, looking into Barbie's message, but also like sitting their kids down and being like, well, Barbie's not real, that, right? I'm gonna guess 9 times out of 10, all the kids would be like, "Yeah, I know,"
Yeah.
and it's like,
Thanks for
right,
thanks for
thanks, mom, got it. But I do feel like there is a big insecurity issue there as well, just with people who come for Barbie.
And that has been there from day one.
Yeah.
Before Barbie was ever brought to market, when they were trying to figure out how are we going to sell this doll, they knew that they were going to get pushback from the parents. And what happened was they did these focus groups.
Mm.
And, it's what we think of as a focus group now. They called them living laboratories. And they interviewed all the little girls. The little girls played with Barbie, very happy. Then they brought in the mothers. And they were so hostile. How can this be a doll? She's wearing makeup. Look at the way she's dressed. She looks like a hussy. I wouldn't walk out of the house this way. And the one thing, though, that the mothers could agree on was that their daughters had all commented on how well groomed Barbie was and how neat her hair was and her clothes. And the mothers, it's 1959, the mothers are lamenting that I can't get my daughter to wash her face or comb her hair or, put on a dress. How am I ever going to get her married? That was their concern.
Right.
And so they decided that that was their light bulb moment for marketing. It was like, okay, get your daughter a Barbie and she'll be able to attract a man/husband. And that's what they leaned into.
And it
in their
worked.
early commercials. That's why Barbie was in a wedding dress in the very first commercial.
Of course. And yeah, obviously they made it work for themselves. And I definitely, obviously props to Ruth Handler always and forever. And I think Ruth Handler was such a big, she was the big part of that. And just the way she was able to latch onto that and be like, okay, well, they didn't like this, but let's twist this. And boom. And Barbie is an instant success.
She was genius with that.
Absolutely. And so,
and she recognized, I'm speaking just, more for little girls, going back into 1956 and those 3 years that she was creating, Ruth understood that every little girl wanted to be a big girl.
mm-hmm.
You played with your mom's lipstick, you put on her high heels and you clomped around. And here was a doll that you could put all of that fantasy on too.
Absolutely. And so getting into your book, which I'm about halfway through, I'm listening to the audiobook right now. I'm loving it so far. Well, first of all, what made you want to write this book?
So it was, by the way, the book is very different from the movie. I just want to state that. And I started working on it before the movie came out. So a lot of
Nice.
people assume that I kind of jumped on it was actually 2019, and I was on a panel about feminism with someone who worked in the doll division at Mattel. And we were having coffee, and she told me the story about Ruth Handler, and I just got goosebumps. And I knew right then that I was going to do a novel about this, about why Barbie was created, how she was created. But I had two other books that were already in the pipeline. So I think I was probably about three-quarters of the way through just a first draft of Let's Call Her Barbie when all the movie hype hit.
Mm.
But that was really what the inspiration was hearing, the story about Ruth Handler, and then the more research I did, just the juicier the story got. And I'm like, this is beyond anything I could have hoped for. Total gifts from the writing gods.
Yeah, I'm sure. And what an amazing story to dive into. Like, did you have any like preconceived ideas about Ruth Handler that changed while you were writing the book?
No, honestly, I was a big Barbie player, but I never ever stopped to think, where did she come from? Whose idea was her? Whose idea was it to create her? So I don't even know that I'd heard Ruth Handler's name prior to that conversation in 2019. And then when I started, getting into the research, and I saw that, I mean, she was the engine behind Mattel, not just Barbie, but there wouldn't
Right.
have even been a Mattel without her. And there were so many surprises. I mean, I think the first thing that she told me when she said that she was named, Barbie was named after Ruth's daughter and Ken after her son, I was just like, oh, that's too wild. Big ick factor, but so wild. So that was sort of like the first little nugget that really intrigued me. And then when she went on and told me more and more, plus the stuff that I found out on my own was just fascinating.
What would you say is like the most surprising thing you learned about Ruth or Barbie while you were writing this book?
I think, first of all, that Barbie was inspired by a German prostitute novelty gag doll for men, Build Lily. Can't make that up. So that was a shocker. I think how hard it was that it took 3 years of getting the prototypes right, and back and forth. And I also think her collaboration with Jack Ryan, who, Ruth is definitely the mother of Barbie, but you can't deny that Jack Ryan was the father of Barbie.
Right.
Without Jack, Ruth, for all her smarts and know-how and ambition and drive, she wasn't a designer. She wasn't
Right.
an engineer. And she needed that component. And that's where Jack, sort of helped to bring Barbie about. So that was a surprise.
Absolutely. Whenever I'm talking about Ruth Handler or Barbie and the creation of Barbie, I always say, Ruth had all the ideas, but she needed her team to make it come alive.
Yes. Charlotte, Jack, and Elliot once he got on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her husband was not a fan of, when she first showed him Build Lily, he said, that's indecent. You can't give a little girl a doll with breasts. You just can't do it.
Right. If you could ask Ruth Handler one question today, what would it be?
Just the two of us off the record, girl to girl. I would ask her what her involvement was in the financial disaster. Like, because, what did she know? When did she know it? And
Absolutely.
And you could argue it. I don't want to give too much away because the book does get into some of that. But I could see where she absolutely knew everything, and I can see where she absolutely didn't know a thing.
Right. I just, for me, same. It's like it could go either way, and it's like let's not forget Ruth Handler was an incredibly smart business woman. That's
She had
that's
her hand
that's
on
what
the
it
pulse
was.
of, she was on top of everything. However, she was also very ill
She
when
was.
all this came
Hmm.
down.
Yes.
So
So
was she out of the picture when a lot of those decisions were being made?
it's a
Or was
really
she just
good.
not quite as maybe in tune with what was happening as she would have been maybe 5 years prior, or before she became ill? So I think it's very interesting. Like, it's very possible that she didn't know that she was innocent, as she claimed.
Right. And, we'll never really know the full story.
Nope.
Sadly, Ruth
But
is not with us anymore, but,
yeah, but
you
that's
know,
what I'd ask her.
that's a really good question. I wasn't expecting that. Very nice, because that's something I'm very interested in too, but it's hard to go back and research that stuff because when it was going on, obviously in the day and age that we're in right now, like information like that would be leaked
Oh,
and it'd be
absolutely,
everywhere, but there's so
absolutely.
much, like, it's very elusive back then. Like, that wasn't happening, and so it would be
They,
really interesting to go in and really dive into that and see, because obviously
yeah,
charges were brought upon her, so there
yes,
there was definitely something there. But what can you do?
yeah.
How do you think Ruth would react to Barbie today?
I think she'd be thrilled. Barbie is now issued, and I don't know how many skin tones they're up to, different hair textures, features, body types. I think the idea that Mattel wants to create a doll that everyone can relate to, I think that would thrill her.
Okay, I agree with you so much. And when, new Barbie also, I mean, Barbie's always going to get shit on always and forever, and it's just that's how you know you're an icon.
Yeah,
But I think just going back to Ruth's business savvy, I also think, and I mean, who the hell knows what's going on with all these tariffs and stuff? I don't know, but
yeah,
let's pretend those aren't a thing. Let's pretend those aren't a thing right now. I think Ruth would also be very proud of how affordable Mattel has been able to keep Barbie, because
yeah,
obviously they're still rolling in the dough. But Barbie is so accessible to almost everyone. You can go to a
yeah,
store right now, at least, and get a Barbie for $9. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's pretty incredible. And I know people always complain about the quality and whatever, but it's like, yeah, but she's $9.
yeah.
What can you expect from that? To me, I think Ruth would look at that and be like, this is pretty good for a $9 doll, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look at how many. I don't know what the statistic is, but is it every 3 seconds a doll is sold, a Barbie is sold
Something
around the
like
world
that.
or something? I mean, it's incredible. And her, just the fact that she's evergreen, the staying power, the lasting,
Forever.
and yeah, and I think she would have been absolutely thrilled with the way the movie just took hold.
Yes.
I
Um,
mean, everybody was talking about Barbie. You
oh,
couldn't
and they
go
still
anywhere
are.
without seeing Pink. Yeah,
Exactly. And I mean, just to get into the movie a little bit, I do use what you were saying earlier. It was like the best PR move. And I agree with you. They really were able to at least somewhat, I mean, obviously the movie was huge, but at least somewhat spin the narrative back onto what Barbie's purpose is and her meaning
yeah,
is. And I think the Barbie movie is a lot deeper than people thought it would be. And
absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
I
And
definitely
that
thought I
was,
was going to see just like a funny, and it is funny, right? But there's
yeah,
so much meaning in it that I think it
yeah,
really made people think about Barbie in a way that hadn't been thought about in a very, very long time.
yes. And upon subsequent viewings of it, you see more.
Right. Right.
There's a lot there. Now, I got a question for you. Do you think there's going to be a sequel?
Listen, looking at things the way movies and stuff have gone forever, I mean, why wouldn't they? Because it was
There's too
such a
much money on the
success.
table they're
For
not going to leave
sure.
that on the table.
And
So,
here's the thing, even if the movie sucks, like, it's still gonna make tons of money because people are
absolutely.
gonna go see it.
Yes.
I think luckily that movie has had such a big impact that ruining its legacy with a horrible sequel is almost impossible.
Right.
But you never know. You never know. And I just hope that if they do a sequel to it, it's just as good as the first one. And I know that doesn't happen very often, but I have high hopes. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I will say I am over buying Barbie movie dolls. There's so many of them. I just
Yeah.
cannot bring myself to buy anymore. And I know, like, let's be real here. The movie made a lot of money, but so did the merchandise that came with it. I
Oh
mean,
my goodness. Yes.
like you said, you couldn't go anywhere without, you couldn't go to Burger King without seeing some kind of Barbie
Yeah.
tie-in, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, I think they'd be silly not to. But I also would hope that they take extreme caution with it and just I don't want it to turn into a joke. So hopefully they're
Right.
able to
Right.
avoid that. And at the end of the movie, we see Barbie go into the real world, and I'd love to see not only what she does there, but I'd like to see what happens in Barbie world when she's not there. Does that make sense?
And if I'm Barbie, man, I want to hightail it back to Barbie world. You know,
Oh, for sure.
I'm not sure the real world's so great right now.
Exactly. And that'd be really interesting for her to see. But we'll see. Like I said, I think they'd be silly not to just because it's going to make millions of dollars no matter what. But you never know. How do you think Barbie's evolution over the decades reflects changes in American society? And where do you think Ruth's legacy still shows up today?
Well, I mean, just look at all the different careers Barbie's
Right.
had. You know, I mean, I think that's kind of the obvious that, and that she keeps evolving. So, and in terms of Ruth's legacy, and again, it goes back to the movie because I don't think people, until Rhea Perlman came on the screen portraying Ruth, and we can talk about how accurate that was, Ruth in the kitchen, not so sure about that. But
Yeah.
which was pointed out to me by a group of Barbie collectors. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are right. But that being said, I don't think that people really knew Ruth Handler up until then. And I think that just those few scenes with Rhea Perlman really sparked a lot of interest in
Mhm.
who is this woman? You know, that
Right.
is Mattel. Who is she? You know, her legacy is that she was a woman ahead of her time. She built Mattel. Mattel would never have happened without her. And Barbie wouldn't have happened without her.
Right.
So it's quite a legacy.
And I think like Ruth just with Barbie's main thing being like you can do whatever you want with her has really stood. I mean, you can still that is still the purpose of Barbie. And like we were talking about it earlier, it's just like her consistent point has always
Yep.
been consistent. So
And, you know, going back to that very first, you know, commercial that they did where against Ruth's, you know, gut feeling, she said, Barbie will never get married. She's not getting married. You can design wedding dresses till the cows come home, you know, and how many wedding dresses have there been for Barbie? And got news for you, Ken's still waiting at the altar. It just ain't
yep.
happening. And Mattel has stood by that. And I think that's, you know, I think that would really please her.
So with your book coming out, I want to know like how has it been being so embraced by the Barbie community?
Oh my God, Barbie people are the best. Just the absolute. You know, we were out in Santa Monica, and are you familiar with Matthew Keith, Dolls on the Brain?
Yeah.
Fabulous guy. In fact, he did there are photographs in the back of the book of these iconic outfits that he did exclusively for us.
Wow.
And he was sort of my go-to whenever I had questions. I basically had him on speed dial, like, you know, Matthew, what about this? What about this? And so I wanted to throw a little party for the Barbie influencers. And I list several Barbie influencers in the back of the book for people that, you know, I really enjoy following and all. And I felt like I just made like a room full of new friends. Everybody was so wonderful. I still, you know, keep in touch with people. And I just think Barbie people are so special. I'm so sad that I can't go to the convention this year.
Mm.
But you know, everybody's just so loving and wonderful and open and accepting and really special people. and everybody's been so generous with their support of the book, and I couldn't ask for more.
I love that. I can't tell you how many people reached out to me after your book or when your book was coming out and told me that I needed to have you on the show. And I was like, absolutely. I'm always down to
Oh,
talk with someone about Barbie. It's a great
oh,
community to be in. And I don't collect exclusively
it
Barbies.
is.
I have a ton, but like just the doll community in general, it's just all great people. And it's just fun, you know? And
It
like you said,
is.
we all need that escape. And that's what it is for me. And it's just so incredible. And
Yeah.
everyone's so
And
nice.
and I think just so nice, and just a general like love of something that is pure fun.
Yes.
How do you
That's what we
how can you
need.
go wrong?
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
So, Renee, what's next for you? I know you're working on your new book.
I am. I am. I don't have a title for it yet, but the elevator pitch is in August of 1969. A disillusioned housewife
Ooh,
accidentally ends up at Woodstock for 3 days. That changed the course of her life.
very
So,
cool.
yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun. I'm talking to a lot of people who are at Woodstock who can sort of remember those 3 days, you know. But it's going to be lots of fun. There's lots of cameos with Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix, Sly Stone, may he rest in peace. You know, Canned Heat. You know, just great music, great music, and a lot of fun.
Love that. All right, well, Renee, thank you so much for doing this. Like I said, I'm about halfway through your book. I'm enjoying it so much. I know all the Barbie fans are loving it too. Please tell everyone where they can find you on social media and where they can pick up a copy of the book.
So I'm on Instagram, Renee Rosen _, Facebook, Renee Rosen author. If people are avid readers, I'm on Goodreads, I'm on BookBub. And the book itself is available wherever you get books. I personally love supporting indie bookstores. And if by chance they don't have it, they can order it in. Wherever your favorite online retailer is, they'll have it. It's available in hardcover, paperback, ebook, and also audio, which you're
Yes.
listening to. And I think Abigail Reno did an amazing job on the narration.
Yeah, like I said, I'm loving it. So thank you
Great.
so much for being on the show, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thanks. Thanks so much. It's been fun talking with you.
Thank you. Wonderful, Renee. That was so much fun. Thanks for being on the show. And everyone, please go check out her book. Let's Call Her Barbie. It's fantastic. And you know what? Check out some of her many other works as well. This book is really well written. Renee was great to chat with, so I'm definitely going to check out her other books as well. Next week, I am interviewing another doll collector, and this one's actually a super interesting conversation. I mean, I should hope they're all interesting, but this for me was this was an interesting one. And I think it's safe to say most of my listeners and guests have been long time doll collectors. Of course, we have newer doll collectors in here as well. And next week, I am interviewing a newer doll collector who has actually really popped off on social media, and it gave me a whole new perspective of the joys that come from doll collecting and also the opportunities that being in the doll world can bring. Again, I want to mention I am going to extend the summer series through August and a little bit of September before I take my fall break. Please, if you want to be on the show, reach out. I am starting to book interviews for that as we speak. But tons of new episodes still coming your way this summer. Thank you all so much for listening. Follow me on all of the things. And if you are enjoying the show, please leave me 5 stars or a nice review. It really helps. And I will talk with you guys next time.